I am so excited for this conversation. It's going to be so fun with three of my most favorite people in the world. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for having
having.
us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's my pleasure. And so, before we dive in and talk about Elevated and about money and about business and all the fun stuff, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. So, just to kick it off, I'd love for you to share your name and what you do as a business. So, Danny, do you want to get started?
Sure. Hi, I'm Danni V, and I help ambitious women step away from body consciousness into body confidence and just stepping out and being seen.
Amazing. Awesome. Christy?
Hello, I am Christie and I am the creative director and owner of DENTED DIVA International Acrylic Earring Company.
Amazing. So good to have you here. And Jessie?
Hey, I'm Jessie. I have a business called Oh Hello Social Co, and I do all things social media and marketing strategy.
Amazing. So needed. My goodness. It's one of the biggest challenges that we have. Hey, so three incredible businesses and very different businesses too, as well. Like we have coaching, we have product based businesses. So I wanted to give you a feel for the type of women that have joined my programs before. And we were going to talk all about what you got out of being a part of the last round of Elevated. So you were part of the last round, which happened in February 2022. And to kick things off, I'd love for you to share what was happening for you in your business and what made you want to join this type of program. Danny, do you want to kick it off?
Sure thing. So when I joined Elevated, I was really feeling like I kept hitting a glass ceiling and was really stuck in my business, and I wanted to really work on the things that were keeping me stuck. And I knew it wasn't like what I was doing in the business, so the strategies and things like that. I really wanted to work on the mindset behind that, and that was a really big thing of Elevated that attracted me.
Amazing. And what was your fave part?
Oh, my favorite part would have been actually, now that I said the strategies, would be getting to know your numbers, because it made me realize doing the mindset work is I avoided actually knowing it.
Right? Isn't that funny? And it's like
Yeah,
a lot of time
yeah,
work on the mindset that you felt confident in order to look at it and not make it mean something terrible or horrific about your business.
yeah, and just having the cash flow and knowing your budget and all of that type of thing and setting goals. It's really exciting now.
Amazing. Awesome. Christy, do you want to share why you decided to join?
Well, the reason I joined Elevated was because I myself was feeling extremely low. I had no self confidence and I felt like everything attached to my self confidence was business related. So I couldn't separate my business and I couldn't separate myself. And I was spiraling out of control, comparing myself to other people and really not focusing on my money, my business, and my direction. So I think I needed a little bit of guidance to help get my mojo back and bring DENTED DIVA back to where it needed to be.
Amazing, amazing. And I love that you're aware of it. I think it's really key that we are understanding, like, okay, so something has to change, right? Like you recognize that this wasn't working, something's got to change. So what do you feel like was the best thing that happened for you for Elevated?
Oh my God, there's more than one. There's so many. Look, to be honest, I learned how to love money again, how to appreciate it, how to nurture it, how to manage it and really look after it. I think it's something that people forget to do. We just kind of push it to the side. We don't want to know about it. We push it down and then it ends up controlling us, I think. So definitely managing the money and I think strategizing with money as well and knowing that, just let go a little bit and everything will come as it needs to come.
Oh, I love that. And you're so right. Like, I feel like we do separate it, especially if we've got fear around it, or we feel like when we do look at it, it creates an emotional reaction that doesn't feel good, right? It feels painful, that we can often just avoid it, which then makes the problem even bigger and makes it worse. And that's the biggest thing, right? Money loves to be managed. And I think that's what I loved sharing about so much about the program is around changing that relationship with money and changing how you feel about it, which then changes your action towards it. And so does managing money feel different for you now?
Oh, 100%. I feel so, I don't know, so in control, if that makes sense. And I feel like it's really given me direction and it's empowered me, like it's given me back that empowerment, which everybody wants. So, yeah.
Love it. You're so right. Because it can be such a crutch in so many of our businesses that we avoid it, and that it actually can be fun. Like it can be exciting and it can be fun. It can be a huge team member that supports your growth of your business, rather it be this thing that you just avoid and want to put into a closet and not think about.
Especially when you get paid.
Yeah. Yes, Jessie. Jessie, tell us more. Tell us more. What made you join Elevated, and what did you get out of it?
Yeah, I think I was at a point in my business, similar to Danni, where I felt like I kept hitting like this glass ceiling without even realizing. Like I was charging, I couldn't go over a certain amount of money for some reason. I feel like I'd never thought of myself as bad with money. Like I've always been pretty good in the sense of like I'll be careful. I always like be aware of what I earn and what I spend and all of that. But I think I saw some of I went to a masterclass, and like some of the things you were saying just really resonated with me about like imposter syndrome and things like that. And I think for me, although the money things really helped, and I realized I did actually have some blockages around money that I didn't even realize, more so about the charging your worth. But the mindset stuff, I think it's just things like I always thought I don't necessarily have mindset issues, like huge issues, like traumas or anything like that. But it's little tips and hacks that you're like, you don't even realize you could improve. So yeah, for me, I think all of that was really vital. And I was like, oh yeah, this just is what I need. I wasn't sure if I needed like a business coach that was just logical. And then when I saw your stuff, I was like, no, I think I need that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think that what was really interesting, I feel, through your journey with the program is that I remember you reaching out to me like maybe 3 weeks in, and you were like, okay, when are we going to get to the strategy stuff? And it was like, yes, I totally get it. You do need the strategy, but we need to be prepared to be open to the strategy, right? There was like, we need to actually work on the mindset piece first for you to elevate and for you to grow in that next phase of business. And you're right, it doesn't mean that you have to have traumas or you don't have to have a bad relationship with money from the past. And you didn't necessarily have like a lot of huge blocks, but it was actually about creating a new headspace around money for the future, wasn't it? It was about actually where you wanted to go with it.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people that were in the course had a lot of long-term issues, and like no offense guys, but I was probably one of the youngest ones. Like there was older women, no offense, I know that's a trigger word. There was a lot of boomers, Christie.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
No, that's just your tech skills. No, but there was older women who had like years more of experience, and like even, different parents in different generations that grew up being more money conscious. And I think that was a difference as well. Like I didn't have years and years of like that stuff. Like I've never had a mortgage. I've never been married or had to worry about that. I'm lucky enough to have lived with my parents when I needed to. And so I've never had those like real life money issues, if that makes sense. So yeah, for me, it was like those first few weeks, I was like, oh, this is really cool that everyone's having these breakthroughs, but like, am I in the right place here? And then as we started getting into the mindset, I was like, yes. And like the stories still helped me. It just wasn't like, I'm not having a breakthrough. Is there something wrong with me? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I remember saying to you, don't worry, babe, you're going to have your breakthroughs.
Yeah. I was so worried. I was like, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong place. Like, I don't know. Am I meant to be crying? Because everyone else is.
Okay, so let's just highlight that. I wanted to say something about that because I feel like sometimes, like with a coaching container, it can feel like you have to bring all of your baggage to it. You do not have to do that with this program. This is about elevation in your business. And yes, you may cry, but that's not a bad thing. You get to have those breakthroughs. And it is a brave space where you can come and actually look at some of these things because like, I think the other key piece that came through for you, Jessie, is like the questions that I asked you to look at your business is like some of the things you actually take your own clients through and that you realized you hadn't actually done yourself.
Oh, literally. And I always say that about you, like, and like a good coach is someone who doesn't give you like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. It's someone who asks you the right questions that you then think of answers that were already in your head, but needed to be like dug out and you needed to be asked those questions. And yeah, it was little things for me, like even the zone of genius versus, it's like things that you're really good at and you love versus things that you can do but don't love. Like that whole thing changed my mindset. And then yeah, like the strategy stuff, like customer journey, I'm like, wow, I do this for my clients. I literally do their whole target market, but I've never sat down and done it for my own business. So it's crazy to not have done that.
Yeah. And I think, signing up for something like this allows you that space, like gives you that intention and gives you the space to actually work on your business. Otherwise, you just keep doing what you're doing, right? Like you just keep doing the same thing day in, day out.
Yeah, one of the things you said really has stuck with me is the don't just work in your business, make sure you're working on your business. And I wasn't doing that, and I'm still working on it, but it's something that every day I'm like, I need to make sure I'm doing that.
Yeah, got it. It's a work in progress for sure. So I love that. Is there any other major breakthroughs that you feel like you had through the program, Jessie?
I think just even recently, I've lost a few clients in the last month, and old me before the course would have been like panicking, like I just have signed up for a mortgage, so I'm like, oh my god, like I should have been stressed, but I literally just looked at it and was like, those clients really weren't serving me anyway, so it's actually kind of a blessing, and I know that better clients will come through, and I know that the money will come. So I'm like looking at this kind of my bank being like, it's fine, it'll work out. And that's a huge breakthrough that I had without realizing. It's not like it was at the time I was like, oh my god, this breakthrough. It was like after the fact and realizing like old me never would have thought about that.
I love that. You're not dropping back into scarcity. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Amazing. Christy, do you want to share what are some of the biggest breakthroughs that you've had through the program?
Now that Jessie's finished hogging the airwaves, sure.
I knew you'd say that.
I'm kidding. What are you, Gen Y? I don't even know. Gen Y, X, Z, K?
I'm a millennial.
All right, over to the boomer now.
Please.
No, I forgot the question. Biggest breakthroughs. Is that what it was, Christy?
Yes.
Oh God, I don't even know where to start, to be brutally honest. I think I needed a complete life overhaul when when I started the course. So I think for me though, being a product business and in such an industry that's so heavily saturated as well, like during COVID, a lot of people decided to start making acrylic earrings. And I was so focused on competition rather than being focused on my own business and giving the energy of money to my own business, being worried about other people, that I didn't realize I was taking all that away from myself and from my business as such. So I think, like Jessie mentioned before, learning to work on your own business is so important. You can give all the advice in the world to other people, but you really need to focus at the end of the day on what it is you want and the goal setting. And when it came to product pricing, it was something that I was living in scarcity mode with. I was so worried about all the other competitors in the industry, what they were charging for earrings and what they were providing instead of what it was that I should be really aiming towards and working for. So I increased my pricing during the course, and it's the best thing I've ever done. I have not looked back. My customers are, they're so impressed with the product they get at the end of the day and the service and the quality and all that sort of stuff. So really having that confidence to do that, I think, is such a huge thing, because so many people in business don't do that.
That's so true. And I think that sometimes we just don't see our own value. And if we're just looking at the market of what's out there and comparing ourselves, we're just going to be basing it on price. And I think that, one of the key things that I take you through in the program is understanding that if you are always comparing on price, people will compare and value you on price, right? Which is pointless. You've got to be looking at the value that you create, and you've got to look at the actual outcome or result that you're creating for your customer. That's really tapping into that value, right? And I think that it's disconnecting as well your own worth and your own value. It's not who you are and what you are, your own value. It's actually about what it gives, what the customer has, right? What they actually get from the product. And I think that it's also helped you even tap into your own originality as well, would you say?
Oh, definitely. I think if you're so busy looking at other people and what they're doing, you're going to create the same kind of stuff. There's going to be no variety. So they'll be thinking, well, why would I want to pay $70 for this set of earrings when I can go over here and pay $35? And then people, look at it and think, oh, well, they're only 35, so they must be pretty shitty. Where now they look at the price and they actually go, oh, that, they must be good because they've got that value attached to it. So, and yeah, the individuality thing, definitely, I've definitely come out of my shell. It's always been there, but now that I have that confidence and I was empowered and I feel empowered with my money and my business, then yeah, I'm definitely me. And I feel like I now radiate this energy where people are like, damn, she means business. I ain't going to touch with her. Like, I had a lot of trouble with, I don't know how you'd say it, but with the industry and other people being jealous of that, I guess. So now I've just really honed in on it and have, I don't know, used it to my advantage, I guess.
I love that. And I think that people don't really often make the correlation between scarcity and comparison, right? Like when we're so worried about competition and comparing ourselves to other people, it's actually stems from a lack mindset. And we don't realize that we're doubting our own value because we're looking at others to find other value, right? And I think that when you start to look at that and go, well, hang on a minute, there is plenty of customers out there, right? There is plenty of people spending money, and that if we're just going, well, I've got to start doing what everyone else is doing or keep doing what everyone else is doing, you stay in the scarcity headspace. And so by shifting out of that, you're like, well, actually, there's plenty of people, there's enough value out there, and there's enough people out there that are willing to spend money on things that they value and that they see quality in, right? There is not a shortage of people out there wanting to buy BMWs, right? There's not. Like, there's actually a car shortage. There's enough buyers, there's enough demand and not enough cars. And so, and I think that, you know, if we're recognizing where we're keeping ourselves at a certain market level based on the price, right? It's one of the other key things that I think that was really highlighted for a lot of people in the group, that were like, well, hang on a minute, I'm pricing myself at this lower range, so I'm attracting the customer that doesn't actually value what I do.
And I've found that. I found my customer base has shifted. You know, I feel like there was a photo that came through from a customer the other day, and this lady was dressed in Louis Vuitton shoes and a handbag, and she had chosen to purchase my earrings. So to me, that was just like this light bulb moment of, wow, you know, she has great taste. And if she's spending on Louis Vuitton and now she's buying my earrings, that really means that she sees my earrings as this luxury, you know, this beautiful quality item, rather than people that would purchase at that lower rate. And there were so many bizarre emails and different attitudes that would come through that, where now I don't get that anymore. It's just, I don't know, something's just moved.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, Christy. I honestly love that. Like, you just, because you're actually vibing, like your vibration is at a whole other frequency, that when you're staying in that scarcity headspace and you're in that vibration of scarcity, you attract more people who are in that, who then nitpick or don't value what you do and don't want to spend the money, and they, you know, request refunds, or they're looking for like very little for very little, like, or they're looking for too much for very little. And it's so funny, like you just start to shift out of that vibration. You no longer attract that, which is just epic. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Danni, do you want to share what's some of the breakthroughs that you had?
Yeah, so I think I'm very similar. Like, I raised my prices with clients I'd had for a long time, and I've been afraid to raise the prices because, oh my goodness, what if they leave me? And I'd been holding that price for, well, it'd been 3 years now, and I just sent out an email saying, this is what's happening and this is what I'm doing, and nobody had a problem with it whatsoever. So it was just like the light bulb moment of actually, you know, charging my worth, which was a huge thing. And now, just like Christy was saying, that like the bringing in the valued clients, because I'm getting the clients now that I'm even showing up as a better coach because they value what I do, instead of, you know, them going, I want to get the cheapest rate, because I'm not the cheapest coach out there.
Exactly. Right. And you've got to value what you do for other people to value what you do. Right. And I think
absolutely.
So showing through the customers you're attracting now. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm getting that high level sort of entrepreneurial woman, which is just what I want to serve.
Amazing. And I think that it goes to show that you were undercharging for having no one to even say anything about the price increase. Right? They knew that they were on a good wicket. They knew they were getting some good value.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, almost like, oh, I'm not going to say anything because you really should be charging more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was such a good feeling, especially because, you know, you start getting worried about the way the the financial state of the country is in and things like that. And then when you raise the prices and they don't even question it, you know, you wish you did it sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. I'd love to know with all of you as well. So what do you feel, what's one thing that maybe you've continued to do that you recognize that maybe you learnt in the program that you implemented in your business and you've continued to use, or something that you've changed since the program that you've maintained? Danni, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I think one of the things that I've continued to do is really know my numbers. So I watch my bank account every day now, and I really find it exciting. And the thing that I've really implemented is, when I'm doing that, is that I get into a really high vibe mindset before I look at the bank account. And it makes such a big difference too. And, you know, looking at being grateful for the money and being seeing that as a relationship. And it's really helped me get that different relationship and know where my money's going and know how to attract it better if there isn't what I want in there.
Love it. So good. So good, Danni. Christie.
Yeah.
Probably should have touched on it before, but I think it's knowing that I don't need, one of the biggest things, I don't need to work hard to earn money. For me, coming from a farming family, I feel like it's something that's ingrained genetically in us, and I've learnt that behavior from my parents. I've always seen them work hard, and that's how they get their money, and they've brought that into me growing up as a child and all that behaviors. But now I really just take the time for me, and I don't feel bad about it. I know that the business is going to survive. I remember when I entered the program, I was exhausted. I was burnt out mentally, physically, emotionally, and that would have been flowing through into my business. Now, I feel like everything's together. The business can take care of itself. I schedule in a massage once a week or a fortnight. I pamper myself when I want to. I sit on the couch if I want to, spend a day in my PJs if I want to. And it's something that I've definitely continued doing. Like, for me, that just has given me, I don't know, I can't even explain it, just so much. Like, I'm just this feeling of freedom. And it's something I'm not going to stop to. And I think it's also taught me to manage my business differently too. Like, I don't have to physically do everything. I've learned to outsource what I need to outsource to, to bring that income in as well.
And that's the beauty of having a better relationship with money. It's like, instead of looking at money of like, oh my God, I've got to go, this is the cost of things, right? It's like, I've got to go spend this money. It's actually like the joy of like, oh, I can actually spend this money by outsourcing it and go and enjoy my life. Like, why else do we get into business?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I promised myself when I started this business that, after leaving the military and the corporate world, that this would be chill. Like, this would be good for us. It'll be time out. When in actual fact, it was almost the opposite. And I was just burning the candle at both ends constantly and not, living. And I think so many small business owners do it. They just feel like they need to be constantly working to keep the wheels turning, which is not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that scarcity behavior that we're constantly go, running after it because of that belief system, right? And shifting that belief system for so many people, because it's one of mine that I've definitely shifted as well, that I was constantly in a cycle of feast and famine with my business. And also that every time that I wasn't working hard, like, that's where that guilt comes in, right? Like, I was literally like, if I was getting paid or money would come through, maybe an online sale would come through, I would feel undeserving of it. And I'd be like, oh, I have to go work now this afternoon to feel like I'm worthy of receiving it. And so shifting that can be massive. And it's like this relief, like you just said, it's like that freedom and the joy of actually just experiencing that relief and freedom in your business again.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something else I was going to say is it's given me time. It's given me time to then do the creative director side of the business stuff. And that is managing the business money. So I now sit down once a week and I look at the accounts and I, look at the bills, and I have not a spreadsheet, but I have a running list of, okay, what's due, what needs to be paid, where are we, forecasting money, where once upon a time, the bank account used to just do its own thing. I'd have no idea. Where now I feel definitely more in control because I've got the time to do that. I'm making the time to do that.
Yeah, I remember you looking, because we do, like, you break it down with your burn rate and your thrive rate, and you were, I think there was something around, like you said, how you hadn't realized what that even was for your business for so long. Like, you've been in business a few years now, and didn't realize that what it actually would take to thrive.
No, when now, I'm looking at my profit and loss all the time, looking at goal setting, looking, okay, what do we need to be doing here to achieve this here? So yeah, definitely opened my eyes.
Love it. And I just want to point out as well for those listening that this is actually more about the relationship with your money, less about the accounting side, I guess, is like what I want to point out, is that relationship with money, when you manage money, more money comes in because it allows you to actually receive it in a way that it's getting taken care of. And even, like, I know you were doing it, there was this element of, like, you realize that money had been going out in places that you had not realized, or that you'd lost money in certain areas, and you're like, oh my God, like, if I hadn't have done this, I wouldn't have realized that I'd overpaid this, or this bill was outstanding that hadn't been paid to me. Like, all these different things had come into of, like, that relationship with money needed to shift in order for money to feel like it could trust you, right? Like, being able to come to you and spend time with you.
Yeah, definitely.
You also can
go.
Sorry, we did that thing. Sorry, I was just gonna say, you also are, like, making room for more money, because when you're looking at all the money stuff, you're like, oh wow, I've actually made quite a bit. Oh, oh, it would be nice to make a bit more actually. Or like, oh, if I made a bit more, I could do this. And like, then you start to think bigger and you're making room for it and you're inviting it in more.
Love it. You're speaking my language, Jessie. It's so good. Awesome.
Hey, do you want Jessie to take over the podcast or?
Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
You've got a very podcast voice. I do like it.
Oh, thank you.
Christie, did you want to add anything to that you were saying?
I was just going to say, and now it's actually giving me the confidence when I'm looking at managing my money to go, hang on a minute, those people over here aren't really serving me and they're not really giving me bang for my buck. And just because I've been with them for a few years doesn't mean I need to keep them hanging around. And I've really reevaluated my entire circle, like social media manager, marketing, graphic designers, bookkeepers, people that I thought were actually doing something amazing for me were probably making me feel heavier and exhausted and just, I don't know, but everything's changed and it's been for the better. So definitely happy.
So good, Christie. So good to hear. And Jessie, what are some of the things that you've implemented or continue to do?
Yeah, I was literally like scribbling notes as like Danni and Christie were talking because I was like, oh yeah, that. Because I think what's really good is like, if you do a course like this, it's like you don't necessarily instantly think, what did I learn? Because it's already integrated into your life. And I was thinking like, oh, like I do a budget spreadsheet every month and I fill it in as I go. Like I've spent this here, and I have like, my income, my predicted income and everything. And I go in like 3 times a month and like adjust it. And then I pay all my bills at the end and like, it's all really organized. But I actually looking back, I'm like, oh no, I set that up after this course because we had those money chats. And I thought I was quite onto it of what I'm spending and where it's going. But when I actually looked, I was like, oh, hang on, I've got that subscription. And I haven't actually been putting money away for that because my business isn't very big on the overheads. So, whereas like Christie, I'm sure you have a lot of like overheads for all different things being a product-based business. But for me, it's mostly just some subscriptions and things like that. And since I've invested more in overhead things, well, again, it's more subscription stuff, but like a good accountant, and I'm GST registered now, and I'm investing in a website, and I paid a graphic designer for a rebrand, like all these things. And I'm like, I can afford that because I've put money aside and, I know all my other bills are covered. So definitely that. And also the zone of genius thing I was saying, like, I'm definitely just so much more aware of that. Like when I'm working, I'm thinking like, I've been getting a bit bored and a bit like unaligned. And I feel like I'm constantly thinking like, oh, well, is it in my zone of genius or is it just something I know I can do? I can't remember all the zones, but it wasn't my zone of genius. That's the main one. I'm always like zone of genius. Yeah.
But that's what you should be focused on, right? Like, so the other one, I guess, is where we spend some of our time is our zone of excellence, where we often are getting paid to do something in that as a skill because we are good at it necessarily, but it doesn't light us up. And so we've just got to be conscious of that. And I feel like I take you through that in the program because I feel like it's so important that you create a sustainable business that you love doing what you're doing, because otherwise you'll end up just burning out and giving up or quitting, right? Because you'll end up doing things that like, yeah, you can do, but it's kind of like, ugh, I don't know if I really want to be doing that all day, every day. So creating that sustainable business, I feel like is super important. And I feel like it's also like all of those key pieces, like all that you just mentioned, are some of the amazing strategies that you need to put in place, not only to manage your money, but for you to feel confident in your business, right? Like to be able to take that next step and to invest in yourself is huge. And so now that you've actually taken that experience and then implemented it into other areas of your business, Jessie, is so powerful. And that's how you continue to grow, which is just awesome to see.
Yeah. And I think that's where I was stuck before this. So that's great. Like I've gotten out of it what I needed to get out of it without even necessarily realizing. It's like a subconscious thing that's just integrated into my life, which has been awesome.
Love it. So good. And I'd love for you to share as well, because I know that we've spoken about it a few times, about your ability to then increase your prices, and you, from the program, you were able to then start charging your worth and to see some really amazing results. Would you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think like I was again really confused about, I think for me, actually, it's more about the value thing, going back to that. And something you said that really stayed with me as well, the list goes on. I should have just like a Christine said this, like notebook or something.
Set you up as an affiliate.
Yeah, like on framed. Was about how like although, yeah, you struggle to see your value. It's more about like something that's easy for you isn't easy for other people. And so for me, like, I'm always thinking, oh, well, like, I could share a strategy about hashtags or like creating your ideal client or something like that. But to me, it's an easy task. So I never think it would be valuable. So it was really reframing that. And then the stuff about not charging for your time, charging for your value. So I had to reassess, like, what value do I give? What impact do I have, both tangibly and like the point of taking time off of a business owner's plate and like, giving them ideas for things that then make them money elsewhere. It's not just about, if I do social media, it's not just about how many likes did they get on a reel. So I really repositioned that. And I went from charging like $850 to charging up to $2,000 for some people. And I just included more value in it and like really realized what I could add. And, obviously I don't do the same things for the $850 and the $2,000. I just added so much more that does light me up. And yeah, it was just such a big change and it was scary, but so worth it.
Amazing. So good. And I feel like one of those key pieces, like you just mentioned, is being able to communicate that value to others. So then they see the point of investing in this, right? Like, I think that's what is such a missing piece for so many people, is that they know what they do, but they really struggle to actually communicate the value in order for people to spend the money, right? So whether you want to have high ticket offers or not, no matter what, like, people are being much more discerning with how they're spending their money. So we need to be really clear on the value that you do create. And it's not necessarily about those likes. It's actually the long-term impact that you're creating in their business, right?
Yeah. And I think a great way to do that is to actually ask your clients. So I actually work for Christie, and the other week she just sent me the nicest message telling me all the things that she has seen as an improvement in her business since I've worked with her. And they were things that I never would have thought of, because again, to me, they're like easy suggestions, but for her, it's changed like her whole business. So it's like just asking your clients, like, or even as you suggested, if you ask them before they work with you, how they feel then, and then asking them after, it doesn't only help you with like case studies and testimonials, it also helps you for yourself to be like, oh my God, I did that. Like, I made them feel like that. And I really struggled to see the impact when I was doing the course. I was like, I don't know what value I bring. I just tell them stuff about social media. I don't know how that's helpful. I don't know if they're making money. But then, yeah, even I have a client who has a spa, and she was telling me like, all of our clients say like, oh my God, your Instagram's so much better now. And I read this about this, so I booked in. And it's things like that you can't measure on insights. It's like you need that feedback and that personal, one-to-one kind of thing.
And it can be so easy just to get caught up in doing your same thing day in, day out, and not actually extract the value that you're creating for your clients unless you ask, right? Like, if you don't ask, you're not going to get that information. And I think that we can get caught up in not valuing what we do because we're not creating that space for that feedback.
Totally.
Love it. Amazing. I just want to open the floor now because I feel like we've uncovered so much already. So is there any other insights or any other surprises that came through the program that you'd love to share? And just whoever wants to go first.
I'll add to Jessie what Jessie just said with the value piece, is because I think that's where you find the confidence to raise your prices, because when you think about the value that you offer to your clients, it's really easy to charge your worth. And so to really find the value in your clients and do that customer research, ask the customers you have now what they really love about what you do, and then really bring that out in your marketing. And that's exactly what will help you raise your prices and feel comfortable with it. Yeah.
So agree. And I think that sometimes you can get caught up in just comparing, and you think, without actually taking the time to go, well, actually, how am I different, right? What makes me different? What makes my business different? What makes my customer experience different? We don't then see the value. Whereas if we try to go, well, it's not apples for apples, right? You're completely different. Like, if I was to look at other coaches in the same space for you, Danni, if you were to look and compare, there's no one else that does what you do in your area. At all, right? They don't look at the things that you look at for women's health. And I think that it's important that you're tapping into those uniquenesses, and that's actually how you communicate the value, because otherwise people are like, well, I'll just go get a PT session over here and try to lose weight here. Whereas you're like, well, hang on a minute, maybe I should be looking at my emotional eating before I even think about working out. Like, there's so much more that goes into what you do.
Yeah.
I think that when you take the time to actually unpack that, you're able to not only feel confident in selling yourself, but you also be able to communicate that across your socials as well.
Exactly. And especially in my industry, where in the wellness industry, like there's people with, hundreds of thousands of followers or 1 million followers, but they actually don't offer what I offer. And before I started with this program, I would compare myself to them, but they only offer fitness or they only offer nutrition, where I actually offer mindset first and then nutrition and then fitness is last. And that was something that I had to, really dig deep to find by being a part of the program. So that was what really helped me.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
good, Danni. What else, ladies?
I was just going to add as well, like, I think the comparison thing, especially on like social media, it's so hard, but with the followers as well, like, there's so many like followers could be anything. They could have paid for those followers. Like they could be, a lot of people change their personal Instagrams to businesses. So it might be that they had all their friends following them and now they've made a business. Like you just don't know. So you can never compare with numbers. And with the value stuff that Danni was saying about like asking for that feedback that we were talking about before, even asking them what their pain points are, or just like listening to what they want. Like they tell you, like, I'm sure with Danni, like if you have someone that you're in, like you're PTing them and then they start talking about I'm finding it really hard because I keep overeating or whatever, then you might be like, okay, well, let's look at that. And it gives you ideas for other services. And it's similar with all of us. Like you don't know, you might look at your competitors and be like, well, they offer this, so I'll offer that. But when you're actually talking to your customers and listening to them, you can then think of whole other services that there's a demand for, because if they're feeling it and they need it, the chances are other people also need it. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think that also I just want to touch on as well, like uncovering and figuring out your burn rate and your thrive rate actually helps you look at your business from a whole other perspective, rather than going and comparing of like, what does success mean for me? Because like when we're comparing ourselves and you see other people on socials spruiking how much they make or what they, how many customers they work with and all of that stuff, but you don't know whether they're actually profitable, right? At the end of the day, if you're basing your pricing on what someone else is doing, you could be setting yourself up to create an unsustainable business that's not profitable just because that's what they're charging, right? Like, even I'm sure you've experienced this, Christie, as well. Like if you went and charged what everyone else is charging for earrings, and you're doing the quality and the time that it takes for you to put together every single piece and just charge what they charge because they're like a 2-piece earring, like you literally be setting yourself up for failure straight up, right?
I'd be eating 2-minute noodles for the rest of my life, I think, and probably wouldn't be able to have a roof over my head.
Right. So I think it's important that we stop and actually not look necessarily to competitors for price, but notice what's in the market. Yes, absolutely. But be mindful that you're also uncovering your own uniqueness when it comes to creating your pricing and making sure that you feel good about it. Because at the end of the day, if you are starting to resent the work that you're doing and you're feeling absolutely exhausted because you're over delivering and undercharging, that's not sustainable. You're going to hate your business real quick. So that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that everyone's charging what they're worth, and also making sure that they're charging that creates a profitable business. Otherwise, you'll end up hating it and quitting. So good. Oh my God, ladies, you're amazing. I could talk about this all day. I would love to finish off with one last question. So for anyone who's listening that would like to or is keen to actually start working on this, what would you tell them about Elevated, and what would you say to them if they're thinking about jumping in? Jessie, do you want to go?
Yeah, I would just say, I was really keen after I did your masterclass, and then I was like questioning myself, like, do I need this? I don't know exactly what's involved. And I kind of went into a bit of a panic of like, just not knowing all the details, like typical control freak. And then I kind of just did it. Like, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to invest in myself, and I know it's going to be good, because if I got that much value from just hour masterclass, I knew it would be valuable. And I think like, going through, as I said, like being asked those questions that the answers to deep down, but you need to be asked, and having the group as well was really good, because like, like for example, me and Danni, we do completely different things, but hearing issues she'd had or like scenarios she'd had, and same with Christie, like I could still relate, and they would bring up things that I wouldn't have even thought of asking that still related to me so much. So having that community support, everyone cheering each other on. And I just think it's such a different course. Like there's so many, either it's usually just like solely mindset, and it can get really, really like spiritual and stuff, or it can be solely business. And you're like, okay, like they're really logical things, but I feel like that I need to go a bit deeper. So it's just the perfect blend of all of it. And I just think it's like, yeah, well worth the investment in yourself.
Amazing. Thank you, beautiful. Christie?
Oh my God, what she said. I can't compete with that. Oh, Jesus.
Don't hate me because you ain't me.
Oh, and to think that I pay this lady. Look, I believe that everything sort of comes to you at the right moment in time. So if someone happens to see your page or your website or, notification of this course, and to me, that's a definite yes from the universe. And that may sound very hippy dippy, but something that I've learned is things come to you for a reason. And I fully believe, the way that I got here to this course, it was just meant to be, because it has been absolutely life-changing. And I think if you're questioning it, it probably means that you need to do it. Because I remember looking at it going, and it's probably because it was triggering all of those money mindset things within me that I'd tucked away for so many years, and that had gotten to me this terrible place in my life where now, that I've experienced it all, and I've taken all the advice, and I've, met all these, as Jessie said, it was such a beautiful community of women, and knowing that you're not alone as well, that other people are having these same issues. Yeah, just do it.
Amazing. Thank you, Christie. Really appreciated you being a part of the group, and it was so beautiful to have all of you were so interacting, right? Like being able to you were so open and being able to have those conversations and also support each and every other person in the group was just beautiful to see. So thank you so much. Danni, do you want to share, what would you say to someone who's considering doing something like this?
Goodness, so I have to finish off after both of you. Thanks. I would really say, like, highly recommend it. Just do it. Like, if it comes into your zone, absolutely join, because like we said, the community is what I really love too. Like, we would speak about different things and be like, oh my goodness, you're my person, because they'd be speaking about something that you were maybe too afraid to speak about. So it's really exciting in that aspect, but also like the mindset and the strategy in together, because for me, for example, I find strategy, sometimes my mind just goes like it explodes, because it's thinking about when we're talking about the burn rate and thrive rate, like just even working out all of those numbers. But because the mindset's there, it's not as explosive, if that makes sense. So like coming into a container like this is absolutely what's going to help you thrive in your business.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Danni. Oh, lovely ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure. I'm going to make sure that I share everyone's links for socials and websites, and then also anyone who's listening that wants to know exactly what Dented Diva is about, and also find out a little bit more about Oh Hello Social, as well as Danni and the incredible work that you're doing with women and their weight and their health, I think is super important. So I'm going to share all of those links in the show notes so you can go check them out, go hit follow, check them all out. And thank you so much for joining me. And if you'd like to know more about the Elevated program, the link is in the bio. Applications are open, and I cannot wait to see you as the next round.
Thanks. Do it.
Bye.
Bye.